got two billboards on Lime Street. One is defacing the listed building.
It's just bonkers, isn't it? Just gonna get a picture. I'm standing here. Okay, well, we've now walked out from the Crown Public House onto Lime Street with Jeff, and we're just going to take a little stroll down Lime Street as it stands now in 2019, and get Jeff's thoughts.
Well, we're looking across the street to the Forum, Forum which became the ABC, and we've just realised that because it's now basically a billboard, it's got a huge advert for a line of sports clothing, and it's an exact echo of the electronic billboard that faces Lime Street Station. So it's kind of an insult again. They've used a listed building made of an Art Deco cinema made of Portland stone, and they've used it as the support device for a billboard, which is kind of, again, a complete lack of vision and imagination. Yeah, it's a prime site for advertising, but I find that's an insult. Do you?
That I know that ceased to be used as a cinema, and I used to go to that cinema myself. I think it was about 15-20 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Look into it, but it's just been sitting there empty, doing nothing. A beautiful building doing absolutely nothing.
There was a plan, wasn't there, that last year it was going to be turned into some kind of media centre. I looked up on the Liverpool Echo site, and there was an article saying that it would be finished by 2019. There's no evidence of anything that actually happened, so I imagine that must have fallen through.
Right then, well, we're going to walk further down Lime Street and see some of the other strange sights that have appeared in the last few years, and particularly recently and markedly this new block. Is the best way of describing it, but there's probably more colourful ways of describing it now.
Well, yeah. What happens is, as soon as you get two buildings away from the Crown Pub, you're straight away into the new development. So the majority of Lime Street has been replaced. Admittedly, they were very run-down buildings, but this was a row of Georgian architecture, pubs, restaurants, two cinemas, and now it's this incredibly faceless facade. It's not like they even put any kind of variety into the facades. It's one great big monolithic slab of, what is it, metal? Is this a metal? Doesn't even feel metal, it feels like plastic. It's banal. It's a supermarket. It's a hotel. It's several empty buildings, and it's kind of there's no sense of permanence about it. If you look over the road, to the Portland stone beauty of the cinema, of the Forum, and then you look at this, you sort of think it's temporary. It's like Liverpool One. They could take Liverpool One down over the space of a week. They could dismantle it and put something new up, And this has that kind of temporary feel about it. So, it's empty. It's nothing.
Something else that strikes me, that Lime Street is bookended by two rather wonderful pubs. So you've got the Crown, where we've just been in, and you've got what's known locally as the Big House, or it's called the Vines. It has an Irish moniker these days, but it's still the Big House as far as we're concerned. And we'll head down there in a bit. But what does it do to the existing buildings when you see a new block like this appear?
Well, both of those pubs they were built as gin palaces. You know, they were Victorian gin palaces, and that the kind of idea behind that a gin palace was that the working classes could go for a drink and be surrounded by splendour. You know, the interiors of both of those pubs are stunningly beautiful, as are the exteriors. It's kind of like there's no sense of, you know, if you're working class, you're going to drink in a dump. These kind of visionaries, they bookended this street with, you know, it's in the name. They're palaces, you know, and now they're everything that fills the void between them. Is this, whether it's metal or plastic, but this faceless, it's just hollow and empty, and I think that kills the thoroughfare, you know. If we were out on a night and maybe we'd been to the cinema and then we were going to go for a few drinks, there's this huge void between these two pubs, you know. Once we'd have gone to the Yankee bar, to the Irish bar, you know, there's nothing here now. Whatever these buildings are going to be, they're not going to be places that anybody's actually going to want to go to, you know. The site of the Futurist is a supermarket, and the Scala, you know, seems to be one of maybe 10 or 12 supermarkets in the city centre that we now have, you know.
It's stripping away the identity, isn't it? The identity, you know, you could see that sort of building in any street, really, in any city in the world, really, and that identity is just being torn away. I think one thing I'd like to do now is, and this is probably the ultimate sort of like cherry on the cake in a horrible way, is walk up to the side of that supermarket we were talking about, to the actual site of the Futurist, and look at what they've put on the sides of the buildings, because that is quite interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that the new development does is it actually it impinges on the architectural integrity of, particularly of the big house. You know, you look at the big house from particular perspectives. The shape of the building is kind of, you know, for as long as this new development stands, that Victorian gin palace, its integrity is ruined by what is surrounding it. You know.
Do you see this building still being around? I mean, we won't be here to find out, but do you see this building still being here in 100 years?
No, I think it would be gone in 20 years, you know. It'd be replaced by something equally banal, but it's like a Lego kit, you know. It's bolted together, and, you know, I mean, look at them, they're still bolting it together.
Yeah, you can hear the drills going on right now. So we'll just sashay along to the site of the Futurist. Just to prove that it is actually still being built. You can hear the sound of construction going on. And there we are. This is just so we know exactly where it was. They've cleverly put these huge, well, sort of, they look like the screen printed sort of pictures of what used to be there, which is darkly funny.
Again, I mean, these are kind of like billboards, aren't they? We're underneath. I can't even say it. We're underneath the Futurist. It says up there, next to Barker and Dobson's sweet shop, next to the National Milk Bar, a few doors down from the Scala. There's no artistic merit in any of these facades. I mean, it's one great big facade, but they've broken it up to make it look like several. The kind of divisions in the facade match the divisions in where the old buildings used to be, I guess, roughly. You know. The mayor of Liverpool, when he was questioned about this development, said, he kind of acknowledged that they were the most beautiful buildings in the world, but they haven't got any money. It's like they didn't even try. I don't know who did the artwork. What does that even mean? If it says it on the tin, National Milk Bar, Futurist Picture House, then they must think that in some way that represents what used to be here. The American bar, the Yankee bar, moved over the road, so they haven't left the street.
So there's plenty of reminders down here of what it used to be, but it's almost as if you're just kind of expected to appreciate that in a way by being presented with it.
I mean, it's even got the names of the cinema managers up on here. Norman Rowley, somebody Royston. It's kind of mad. It's like there's a banal madness about it.
Yeah.
Does that memorialise it in some way and the people who worked here? When they were demolishing the Futurists, we came down here and there was a man who had been the projectionist standing at the perimeter fence, and he was just watching the building disappear. He'd been the cinema projectionist in the last kind of 10 years of its life, I think. And he was just watching it like he was watching his horse being shot or something. And it was like they killed it, this this beautiful place he'd been part of,
And the excuse has always seemed to be money, hasn't it? That's the one that's always wheeled out. There isn't the money to do it, but is that genuine? Is that something that really was the case? I mean, I don't know. I'm not really affiliated to the council at all in the way they operate. But is that a real reason, or is it all about making money rather than finding the money? Is it all about they see it as bringing prosperity back to the city, or that's the way it's pitched all the time. These new buildings are going up. What used to be here was wasteland or dereliction, and now they're cleaning the city up, and they kind of have this kind of shiny new pride about it. But is any of that really coming from a genuine place, Jeff?
I don't know. I mean, we should look into how much this development actually cost. It might have cost millions, but it still looks dirt cheap, doesn't it? Its values are cheap. There's no, I don't know, it's slightly going off your question, but there's no way anybody is ever going to say again, oh, we went out on Friday night down Lime Street. Who's going to come to Lime? It's like, okay, you might go to the pubs, but no one from anywhere else in the world is going to say, let's go and look at Lime Street.
Yeah. Yeah.
The world famous Lime Street. I think it might be, I don't know, you build them cheap and then you can make more money from them. I don't know.
Right, so we're outside number 79, which is just pointed out that it's a preserved part of the street. Bizarrely, I don't know, it's a residential block or something like that, and it's just being kept for that reason, and it was privately owned, maybe. That's the only thing I can think. But it's sort of sandwiched between the Vines, the big house, and the new developments.
It's like it's almost like it's one of the few remaining teeth in the mouth. It's like, I wonder why that's. I'm wondering if it's a different kind of listings category, or
Yeah.
or was it intact? Were they not allowed to get rid of it because it was less, in a better state than the rest of the street? I don't know. I'll find out. Yeah.
Be interesting to know.